Welcome back to the Triple Double Watch, everybody. We are back to recap the NBA Finals. The Warriors have won the championship. They won Game 6 in Boston, 103-90. Very thrilling Game 6. A lot of legacies got boosted. A lot of resurgences in this game from the Warriors, and we'll talk about where the Celtics go from here now as a young team looking to repeat some of their successes. The game started off, the Celtics were really hot, 14-2 to start the game, and just fizzled out quickly. A lot of turnovers, a lot of offensive rebounds from the Warriors, and the Warriors went on one of the most historic runs in Finals history. What did you think of that?
It was impressive. It just felt like Celtics-wise, pretty much showed what the whole series was like for them. They had runs here and there, but it just felt like they couldn't sustain that. What they did in that first quarter, they could not sustain that for four quarters in any of these games. It felt like even the wins they got, like Game 1, they had to have an insane fourth quarter to win that one. So it just felt like the Celtics' inexperience finally kicked in for them here.
Absolutely, and so Celtics at one point were up 22-18. And Warriors went on a 21-0 run to end the first and start the second quarter. They said it was the longest in 50 years. So,
Crazy.
No better way to get yourself going in Game 6 of the NBA Finals as if you're the Warriors. And that run was fueled started with a Draymond three-pointer. And, when he finally hits his first three-pointer of the Finals, that gives you a lot of momentum, honestly.
Yeah,
the team's feeling good for sure.
It just definitely felt like this was by far his best game all around. I mean, he finished with 12, 12, and 8. So like you said in our preview, wanting him to get close to those triple-doubles, this was the closest he got.
Yeah, to go along with that, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and numerous other tipped passes, just altered shots. He was a menace on defense tonight, even greater than his 2 steals and 2 blocks shows. And to further that run, Draymond had 2 or 3 offensive rebounds in that 21-0 run that led to direct kickouts to Jordan Poole and three-pointer. And, offensive rebounds, three-pointers are back killers. And Draymond the energy was there. Draymond wanted it bad. The energy was there all night for him. And, I mentioned he was my X factor. And he didn't play great in Game 4, but he played decent, and they won. And he plays amazing in Game 5. He plays amazing in Game 6, and they win both relatively easy because he was on his thing both nights.
And another interesting part of this game was the bench play for both sides. The Celtics ended up with a horrendous performance. Their bench as a team finished with a minus 64 plus minus. So I'm not sure if historically that's just awful play from your bench overall. Can't have that in the Game 6. And the Warriors bench had some good minutes from Looney and Payton and Poole again. Looney did not score, but he had 7 rebounds tonight, some big ones. And Payton played strong defense again, and Poole had a huge outburst there. I think it was the second quarter. So.
Yeah, Poole did 6th man of the year type stuff. Gary Payton has no right to be that athletic. At 6'3", he had 1 dunk, just off-standing vert, 2-hand, just on a big man. It's crazy how he was out of the league being that athletic. But anyway, I was surprised kind of Peyton Pritchard played as much as he did. He gave you some good moments throughout the playoffs, but in a do or die, I'm kind of surprised he played that much. And I almost think Ime Udoka kind of had a bad coaching job tonight. Celtics start on that 14-2 run, and then you take Robert Williams out. And, maybe that was the game plan going in was, okay, Robert Williams is coming out 4 to 5 minutes in the game. He's coming back in later. But when you start off that hot, it's just like you got to roll with that for a bit at least and see it through. Derek White came in for him, and they went cold for a bit. And then they put Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams in with Robert Williams back in too, and that lineup wasn't good either. So, I don't know. I didn't love the rotation tonight, and do or die game for the Celtics. But I don't know. Warriors bench just outshined for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Want to talk about Tatum for a second?
Sure. So I saw the first dumb foul. So he had a few of them, as you'll mention, but his first foul was just plain dumb. Just as Van Gundy on the broadcast, he tends to every time this happens, point it out. The star players taking these take fouls at the beginning of the game comes back to haunt you. And the Warriors got into the Celtics got into foul trouble pretty heavily there at the end of the first half. They had Tatum and Smart both with 3, so that just threw off the rotation as well. So
yeah, Tatum's 3 fouls were all pretty bad. So that first one just held Curry on the fast break, and that was only 3 minutes into the game. Your mindset already kind of changes then because you're working hard just to not get the second foul, whether it be on offense or defense. And his second foul ended up being early in the second quarter on a Draymond post-up 20 feet from the goal. So it was a pretty useless foul there too. And then his third foul was late in the first half. He tried to get by Wiggins at the top of the key and hooked his arm completely. So that was not as dumb, but still kind of like, okay, you didn't have to do that at all. So like 3 first half fouls, and that just changes your whole gameplay. You're driving to the bucket now, watching out for bodies that might be taking charges. You can't play as aggressive on defense, blocking shots, getting steals. And when you're the best player on your team, you can't put your team in that situation.
yeah.
And say hello to the Finals MVP, first time, Stephen Curry.
Finally got
his
it.
Impact shined great again tonight. Finished with 34 points. And I don't even think his scoring was his best aspect tonight. For him, at least, which is crazy to say. But you look at the box score, he had 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. And he was just... I mean, it wasn't a 6'3" Steph Curry. It felt like a 6'8" Steph Curry out there.
Yeah, his impact was definitely felt, and towards the end of the game, he started getting, he could feel it. He could feel it getting closer and closer. And I've never really been a huge Steph guy, but it was just awesome to see the emotion he was showing towards the end of that game, and it'll be interesting to hear and see the talks about, his legacy going forward and where people are going to start ranking him now.
Absolutely, because you could tell he knew knocks on him. He knew, oh, hey, you don't have a Finals MVP. Okay, well, shut up. I do now. Say, hey, you didn't do it without KD or without an injured Cavs team. Okay, shut up. I did it now. So you could tell it was really personal for him. And, finished with 2 steals tonight, but his defense was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good. So many times he got switched on to Tatum, and he wasn't getting steals, but he was deflecting it out of bounds. He was holding his ground to at least allow his double team to come. And Tatum only finished with 13 points tonight. It felt like Curry was guarding Tatum at least 13 times tonight. You would expect Tatum to score more on him, and Curry was just locked down tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a great performance from him. And as far as all-time rankings go, I think it vaults him probably for me top 10, but if he's not top 10 on other people's lists, he's got to be close, I would think now.
Yeah, I'd really have to get into that and, dive in.
Maybe we'll do an episode on that.
Yeah, we had some friends here watching the game with me, and they were saying he's the best point guard ever now, and I was like, still pretty close to me, It's still... I will agree. He definitely has a better case now to be the best ever, and I do think by the end of his career he will most likely have that. But my Lakers side still has Magic #1 for now. But one thing I do like seeing about Curry is his influence on the young guys, like especially Jordan Poole talking about him, and just some of the interactions they had during the game. Steph's dagger he hit and doing this down the floor, and you see Jordan Poole doing it back. It's cool to see his influence with those young guys.
Absolutely, Jordan Poole's his little bro out there, and Jordan Poole kind of idolizes him, and it's cool to watch for sure. Going on down the line, we're talking about Draymond. He had a great game, and his championship DNA was as evident as ever tonight, and they needed that. And rounding out the big three, Klay only shot 5 of 20 tonight, but once again, his defense was stellar. And the Warriors' defense as a whole could not have been more locked in.
Yes, it definitely was not what we were expecting from Game 6 Klay. It was not a complete dominance per usual, but, he still had some shots. He was still an influence out there, so got the job done one way or the other.
Well, and this is what I talk about all the time. When you put a guy like Curry or Klay on the court, they could be having the worst shooting night of their career. It doesn't matter because they're being face guarded still. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, as
they're
you saw in
still
Game
being
5.
productive. But the Warriors' defense was tonight. I mean, it improved throughout the series, and that's kind of been been the case with the Warriors for this whole 8-year stretch. Is they feel out their opponents in Game 1, 2, and 3, and whatever. And they just know what they're wanting to do. And their rotations are just on point, never a second late. And they're in the passing lanes. Every single pass is difficult for the Celtics tonight. And it was a defensive clinic.
Mm-hmm. And, my X factor coming into this series, Andrew Wiggins showed out. And, if Steph Curry wasn't Steph Curry, he's Finals MVP for this series. So what do you think about his game and series?
Yeah, the new Harrison Barnes, the better Harrison Barnes, the worst KD, whatever you want to call him. He's Andrew Wiggins, and the
Maple Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. For this team, might be the best fit. When you're not going to get one of the best scorers of all time for KD, has to be one of the best fits they could have possibly found, and. Once again, held Tatum in check. 4 steals, 3 blocks, almost had 5 assists, 6 rebounds, 18 points. Flirted with a 5x5.
That's wild.
NBA Finals game. I mean, you go back just 18 months ago, and no one would have called Wiggins a elite defender. They might have said above average at best. At best. Some people didn't even think that. And tonight he showed first team all defensive stuff. He's showed it all series, honestly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean he should have got it this year. It doesn't mean he'll get it next year. But when the time was big, it was the moment. He stepped up and played lockdown defense. And he's there. He's given timely buckets on the 3-pointers. He's slashing, cutting, always on the right spots. It's a perfect fit for this Warriors team.
Yeah, just like you mentioned last episode, definitely feels like the Warriors have won that trade. We're getting him, and his impact is it's huge on both ends, and you feel it all game out there, and it's good to see. And I feel like I've hit the nail on the head with the X factor. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like I did too with Draymond.
Yeah, it's pretty. We did pretty solid both sides.
But at the same time, there's only so many guys you could call an X factor, and if they play well, the team's probably. But
it's true.
No, that's W's for us. That's W's for us.
Facts.
It's good seeing Klay back for sure after this injury, and there's people when he came back that legitimately were like, "Is he even going to be in late game situations come playoff time?" And it's just like I mentioned, he could be not shooting it well, just like tonight. And for people to think he should be off the court is just crazy, because he's going to get face guarded, whether he's 1 of 10 on the night or 6 of 10. So I don't know. It was just crazy how people thought that earlier in the year, but it's good to see him. He's very happy in his post game interviews for sure.
He is. He's calling out some specific players and just enjoying himself. It's. As I would say, these were 2 of my least favorite teams coming into this series, but I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and the personality showed a little more. You saw Curry show his personality more. You saw Klay, Draymond, he just does it all the time, but, and it was also cool to see Coach Kerr put in Iguodala there at the end to celebrate on the floor with that core that's still there. That was cool. I pointed that out watching it live. It was pretty cool to see. So
Yeah, that felt like another big bro, little bro moment. Iguodala checked in for Wiggins, and Iguodala high-fived him as hard as he could about 7 times or so, it felt like. And he was just like telling Wiggins, "You that man now, you that guy."
Yeah.
And Iguodala, and that's another thing too. Like, people are so quick to jump to Wiggins being a bust in earlier years and stuff, but it's tough when you don't have anybody to learn from.
Yeah.
And going to this team to learn from Draymond, and then Iguodala comes back over and he gets to learn from Iguodala. I mean, Iguodala is kind of Wiggins' mold. He really is. And to learn from Iguodala is, nothing better. And that was great to see. But looking forward now, where do the Celtics go from here?
It's tough. I think they have a very good core here. I'm not sure who's free agency and all that, but I feel like they know now what it feels like. They know what to fix. As you mentioned, Udoka had some questionable moves this game, but I feel like he wasn't bad throughout the series. There wasn't much of a huge advantage one way or the other, but I feel like you work on ball handling. Everybody out there. I mean, Smart was solid, but he himself has got to work on it. So you work on ball handling, you work on limiting your turnovers, and just you've got the experience now. So going forward, I expect them to be back here very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And if this team gets any better, it's just going to be through the bench. I mean, their starting lineup's pretty set. If Horford stays healthy and on the team, you can just always upgrade Peyton Pritchard, even though he was decent. You could always upgrade Grant Williams, even though he was decent. We'll see what happens with Derek White. But I don't know. As far as the stars go, I just think Tatum and Brown have to be more efficient just throughout multiple games worth. Jaylen Brown was pretty good tonight, but even then he had 5 turnovers, and they were all costly. They all led to fast breaks. And so, yeah, like you said, ball handling, just smart passes. And, it's tough when the Warriors are 3-time champions and got a lot of championship DNA, and you're first time there. It's definitely an advantage. So, regardless, both the Celtics and the Warriors will be right back in the thick of things in the 2023 NBA season. Both be competing. Maybe we'll see a rematch, maybe not. But either way, it'll be a very good season. We're glad you joined us for all these recaps. We appreciate it. Hit a subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get up to 50 still. And until next time, catch you later. Peace.